right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. We're back. Positive Friday.
Dude,
Everyone's in a great mood.
We're back and in a great mood. I did have a touch-and-go day. I got up. All the equipment broke down last week. My boy Rupinderjeet came, gave me all new stuff. I came up, plugged everything in. Didn't work.
Oh, no.
I was scrambling for this guy's card because the only service, they got to come from Barry. And I'm like, Hayes' head is going to pop off when he turns this thing on. Because Noodles, he's just like, yeah, whatever. But I knew you would have lost your mind. I just unplugged everything and it worked.
All right.
The other bad news I got cooking is the life coach is going to get an earful because there's a new routine apparently. He wants me to practice running 4.5K because he said in the spring, no more riding a cart while golfing. I go, what are you talking about? He's like, that's a new part of your routine. You walk every day.
Oh.
And I just said, man, I don't know if I can go there. Like, I don't know if that's, like, if would you do that? I can't
No,
do
I mean,
it.
how's he going to be able to know what you're doing, though? I mean,
I get it, but what am I
that's
supposed
where-
to say? Because he's turning my life around. I'm getting into a groove, and he's like, you know, the new thing is there's no carts this year for golf. He's like, walking golf isn't an exercise. For a fit person, it's just being active.
Yeah,
I go,
see-
I get that, but I got stuff going on in the cart. That's mandatory.
Right,
I
that's
got
very
darts
unhealthy,
in there.
too.
I got
That's the issue.
I got stuff going on in
yeah,
there.
you got, bacon and egg sandies in
And
there.
anything.
Yeah.
Phone,
there's-
check the phone,
Right.
the click thing. Like
Well,
I got
this is where I completely disagree. For some people, it is about being active, right?
That's right.
Golfing is secondary. It's that they like to get outside, they like to interact with their friends or people, and you walk the course, you feel great afterwards. Go grab a bite, maybe a drink, you go on with your day. I know the way you and I are wired. I want to play golf. That's why I am there. I am there to try to shoot the lowest round I possibly
But that's
can.
what I told him, Hayes. I'm like, I come here. It's less than a kilometer away. I'll work out before I golf. I don't golf to exercise or
No.
be active.
It's not.
I got stuff to do in the cart.
It's not
That's
active.
mandatory. How can
Can't
you
happen.
have a bacon and egg sandy at 8 a.m. on the third tee with a black coffee followed by whatever your needs are? And
Right.
it's like
little scoot through Twitter, Instagram, whatever it happens to be. You can't do that. You cannot do that while you're
Yeah.
walking.
See, but
It's a science.
let's be honest, though. Okay, trainers try and set parameters. That's what they do. They want to shoot
Noodles,
high.
they do.
They want to
do.
shoot high. But if they actually followed you around, if they had one of those body cams on you for 24 hours and said, I'm surprised this guy makes it to my gym at
He
whatever
would do
time.
that. He probably would gas
Exactly.
me. He would gas me.
But every trainer's like that. Even when you're in peak physical condition playing in the NHL, I guarantee you, if you had a personal trainer that followed you around for a 48-hour stretch in July, his head would blow off his body because he'd be like, how is this guy making it to the gym when he went to bed 4 hours ago and he'd had 48 Coors Light and a couple darts and played 2 rounds of golf, and you were out water skiing and doing whatever else you were doing, when you were young and enjoying your life. Like my trainer was the same way. I remember showing up one time and he's like, get the hell out of here. He goes, it's 10 o'clock. I know I reeked of booze and I was just a mess. He's like, get the hell out of here. Like, you're wasting my time. You're wasting your time. Take this seriously. I'm like, dude, it's June 28th.
I know.
Like,
Can you relax?
like,
and do you realize I'm paying you for this? Like, do you realize it's a service? It's like, and I'm not here to jump on your life coach or your muse or whatever it is.
Yeah, the
but
muse.
you cannot satisfy these people. It's impossible. And I'm sorry. It's not a realistic lifestyle. And what I would love to see, because I guarantee you, your life coach, your trainer back in the day, Noodles, that guy was cruising through a McDonald's drive-through, and he was grabbing a QP or a Big Mac.
But Hayes,
and
here's
you're
what
like,
I'm
what's your
thinking.
story? Why are you yelling at me? Look at you.
Here's what I was thinking, because I got my idea, and I think it's so greasy. I was watching some senior tour the other day. It's so greasy. The player gets the wheels in the cart and drives up the fairway, and the caddy's got to lug the bag down the fairway. So what I'm thinking is, if I get a buddy, I meet a buddy who's a senior citizen who wants to kill 2.5, 3 hours in the morning, drive my cart for me, and I'll walk up and down the fairways. If I want to get in the cart, cruise through Twitter, I got to meet a buddy. I meet a buddy to drive the cart.
So you're going to hire some guy?
Dude, I will.
I don't
want
a driver for the golf cart.
You can probably get some kid from the shop that do that. Tell him you'll pay him $50 every round.
Dude, I'm not paying $50 a day. What do you think's reasonable for the guy to drive the cart? All he's got to do is
4 hours, a 4 hour round, and to put up with you probably snapping. I would say $200 a round.
No. I think 25 a round if all you're doing is driving the cart from the first hole to the 18th green.
No, it's man. Look it's like it's a 4 hour round. If you're paying the guy,
you know me. I'm not there for maybe more than 3 hours.
That's $7 an hour, dude. It's not even minimum wage. Like you got to get to minimum wage.
Yeah, but if some senior citizen is just looking to kill 3 hours, come and hang out with me. You can drive the cart. We can have some laughs.
Let's find one. Let's find someone for you. Let's start a contest. We'll get this going, Doogie. I don't know how we're possibly going to
send in a resume if you live in the Etobicoke area within 5 kilometers of Weston. You want to kill 3 hours. You can bomb around Weston Wednesdays and Fridays.
Perfect. I know a guy who'll do it for free. Doogie, your buddy, who gives you the best picks.
Do it?
Because he's going to want to golf and become better friends than we are, and I don't do that with people I work with.
So one of the prerequisites is like an Uber. In an Uber app, you could say no conversation. You can actually say I don't know if you've seen that.
I'm not
I've
like
seen
that.
it. It's tough, man. It's
really
tough.
Do you know anybody who's ever done that?
I don't use Uber enough to be in a position where I would.
You
personally
can put
do
on
that.
Uber. You don't want to talk.
Yeah.
It says. No conversation, please. Like, basically, leave me alone. Do not speak to me. Just drive me to where I'm going. I'm paraphrasing, but I've seen that, and you could check on it. I obviously don't do that, but I'm not chatterbox with the guy. But you can at least go, "How are you doing today?"
Well, that's the
type
thing.
Of thing.
Like there seems like there should be a middle ground where you acknowledge each other. How's it going? Yeah, busy. How are you? Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to the airport for whatever reason, and then that can be
That's
enough.
it. Yeah.
And that applies to a lot of different areas of society where it feels incredibly ignorant to put in a prerequisite that I don't want to talk to you. But there should be an understanding.
I want to put a sign on my forehead.
I find
I don't want to talk to you.
Like when I get my hair cut, I'm not in the mood to talk a lot.
Me neither,
I
man.
just want to get this done and if I can get out of here in 7 minutes, I'd be ecstatic. And I'm not rude. I'm happy to talk if that's where the engagement's going. But I'm saying if it were my decision, like if I were stopped before I sat in the chair, do you want to do this silently? I'd say absolutely. Let's go Charlie Chaplin on this.
You would press the app. You would press the app and say,
would probably,
silence, please.
Silence, please. I'm good with the haircut. Big tip, huge tip, and we're all moving on with our lives. And we're happy here. Anyway, all right. Well, Doogie, get on the case. I don't know. Oh, maybe
send in your resume to
Send in your
OverDrive.
resume. Yeah, send in your resume on being O's life coach caddy.
Caddy.
Basically.
It's just it's a friend caddy. It's a buddy caddy
I love
system.
It. Okay, perfect. We got Kevin Weeks coming up in about 20 minutes. Mike Johnson, who was calling the game last night. The Leafs, they found a way to get a win. I'll give them a lot of credit. They were down 2-0 early, and I'm watching that thinking, here we go. Like, here it goes, where if they
that first period, I was scared.
If they're lacking confidence or they're feeling like, woe is me, and the walls are caving in on us here, that goes to 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, and today all hell is breaking loose. And I give them a ton of credit because they did not allow the early – a couple of bad bounces. The Kadri goal in particular was just a kind of crazy bounce and play.
Right.
And it's 2-0, yet they battled back. They get up 4-2, and at that point it's like, all right, now the show really starts. Can they find a way to hold on?
It's like that's when the game started.
Yeah.
It's like 4-2, there's your game. But let's be real. That was a big money night by a big money player who just
34,
said,
I think 34
Unreal.
dragged him out of it. Because
Unreal
honest to God, I thought that was heading down the drain.
Mm-hmm.
Like at 2 Cobb, and Martin Jones had made some big saves. Like that could have been maybe 3 or 4 Cobb, and the game's over. I think 34 was like, he might have saved the whole situation, if you ask me. And that's maybe
absolutely. And it started in the first period because if Auston Matthews Noah Gregor was trying to chop that puck into a triangle up the ice, and the coach already wanted to rip his head off because he had a couple turnovers, and he was giving it to him on the bench, and he was chopping that thing up like sushi in the neutral zone. And Auston Matthews said, give me this thing, and I got to take control here because I don't know who else is going to do it. And he rips that thing under the bar, and then he scored 2 more. It was just because other than that, it wasn't a game of perfect.
No.
I mean, there was some stuff going on, and if that challenge I found to be bizarre because I was like, I watched the replay, it wasn't offside, and then there was no goaltender interference. I mean, maybe a bunch of other teams catch that, or all the teams catch that, but I thought that was pretty crafty. Hayes, I know you hate this stuff about the game, but those are the rules, and it's a crafty catch, man.
I hate the fact that the rule is available. I don't blame any team for activating it. I mean, it's in the rule book. I don't blame Sheldon Keefe or any other coach in the league for challenging. They're allowed to. I don't like the idea that that's an option that's available to them, and I do think that last night is an example, albeit very anecdotal. And I'm not suggesting this applies across the board or that this is scientific, but my stance on a lot of this stuff has been that generally it evens out. And I know Leaf fans are saying, well, wait a minute, if you didn't have replay, it would have been 4-4. And I would argue actually that's not the case, because if there was no replay, the Mangiapane goal doesn't count because they waved that off. So that's an example of it last night, that they actually, in the moment, didn't get it right technically by the rule book. They went to review, slowed everything down, and eventually both got reversed, I guess, according to the rule book, the right way. But in reality, they waved off the Mangiapane goal. If there's no review, they just move on with the game. And if there's no review on the Zeri goal, that one counts. So it probably still ends up 4-3. But, yeah, incredibly crafty by the video team, the video coach. He got his flowers. But that was the one that Matthews – that's the one you circle. Like, that's the one at the end of the year, if we're talking award shows, if we're talking them making the playoffs, if we're talking him hitting somewhere close to 65, 70 goals. Because what I found amazing about the way he scored last night is that they were all incredibly unique. That first goal is disgusting. Like, that is a disgusting goal, that he takes that through his legs and basically goes backhand, forehand, shelf in one motion.
Noah Gregor there chopping, and he says, "Give it to me."
I know, but he took that like just motoring through the middle of the ice.
Noah Gregor got an apple on that.
He did,
though.
and I guess he deserved it. He was trying to dump it in. I don't think he was trying to pass the puck.
No kidding. He wasn't even trying to pass it to him.
No.
He was like, I need this thing away from my life right now. And Matthews said, give me that thing, and I'm ripping it under the bar.
Like, that goal that's a top 1% in the league type goal. And then his second goal, that's a craftsman at work. I thought Mark Masters did a great job of explaining that in the second intermission, that he works on that angle every single day, where I think that's him. I think it's Draisaitl. I think on the other side, Pasternak, maybe still Stamkos. Like, there's very few guys who can rip that and be prepared for it and get it on net and score. And then his third goal is the fourth. That's a Noah Gregor goal. His fourth goal is a grinding, I'm going to go to the net, push someone out of the way, and just whack it and hope it goes in. And that's why he's the best goal scorer in the world. What we saw last night, he scored 3 completely unique goals, and the guy's an absolute machine. 37 goals in 43 games, 4 hat tricks. It's absurd what he's doing.
Think about, I think Phil Kessel, when he was with the Leafs, had a couple seasons where he topped out at 37 goals.
37 or 38.
In 82 games.
Right.
And everyone was like, this guy's a sniper. He's earning his keep in Toronto. In 82 games, and this guy's got 37 in 42 or 40?
He's played 42. The team's played 43.
Yeah, 37 cookies in 42 games. I said to Dregs last night, I'm like, I remember having 30-goal seasons, and after the year, everyone was like, man, you were on fire this year. Like, an 82-game season, they're like, you had a hell of a year, man. You're a 30-goal scorer in the league.
I know.
That's in 82 games.
It's crazy.
And this cat's got it in, he's got 5 more to 7 more than that in 42 games. That must be, like, to see some stuff ice level, like Mario or Pavel Bure in full flight, Gretz. To watch this guy on his team, it must be outrageous. Like, to see this guy scoring, he must be on the bench. Like, are you absolutely crapping me right now?
I know. It's every night.
It must be a lot of fun to watch. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there's very few. There's no one like him, I think, in terms of scoring. Like, there's other Pasternak had a hat trick last night, and now it's Paster's right behind him in terms of chasing the Rocket.
Good player.
Great player.
Yeah,
great player. And Pasternak can do what he did last night in terms of highlight reel, kind of craftsman type goals. He'll battle.
It's only there's honest to God. Sorry to interrupt, Brian. There's 5 guys, maybe guys that we could count on our hand that could do it year in and year out. And Austin's one of them, and he's at the top of the heap and has been. Last year was a down year. He had 40 snipes, 41,
whatever, I think, yeah.
Whatever it was. Like, that's a down year. Like, he is, I don't know, like, we did chat today. Like, can he get to 70? I think the stars have to align, but I think 65, like anything, I don't know. We talked about it the other day. 55 would be kind of like disappointment right now. You know what I mean? Which is weird to say. But health, knock on wood, all of that type of stuff. Like this guy, it's weird. He goes quiet and then it's hat trick. Quiet, and then now we might go on a little, 2 the next game, 1 here. Like, but he has these little pockets, but it all kind of evens out in the end as far as like he's on a ridiculous pace. And honest to God, I wasn't kind of tongue in cheek when I said this guy might have changed the landscape of this whole season last night, because I don't know if they lose that game last night. What are we talking today? Are we talking Sheldon Keefe? Are we talking, are we talking like, TJ Brody? Like, there were guys that are under the gun, and TJ looked nervous last night. That's the first time I've actually, but I thought guys.
He's just having a really difficult time out there. I don't know if it's his feet or he just can't keep up. He's lost it kind of. Like, I'm not being difficult on the guy, but when there's plays that are supposed to be made and he's like that play right there, that's got to get down the ice. And that's just a feeble attempt at icing. And you're supposed to be desperate, and everyone's counting on guys that are logging minutes to try to snap out of this. The same thing on the Ryan goal in Edmonton, where he had to show some desperation to get his ass back into the slot. He is having a tough go of it. But the reason is he's lost a step and he's playing too many minutes. I don't want to keep crushing this guy every night, but the optics of it looks bad. It's like he's looking bad out there, coughing up pucks. His feet are getting him in trouble. Look how casual that is, going back to the front of the net. Like, when you're trying to win games and you got that guy logging heavy minutes, it's difficult to win, man. I'm telling you. I have nothing against the guy. He's probably a great dude.
He is an awesome person.
That's right. Awesome person. But him logging those minutes, it's tough. It's tough back there in that league, man.
He knows it. Like, he was scrumming last night, which I'm sure happens every time he goes to Calgary because of his history in that market. But I have not seen his face off the ice all year. Like, he never talks to the media.
A bunch of guys are just getting a shower and go down and get in the car and go home.
Exactly. Send 34 out, 16, 88, 91, 44. It's the standard procedure, which I understand. And that's who the media generally wants to talk to. But he's in the firing line, and I give him credit because he did speak last night. And Brody did say, he's like, I believe he said I've maybe lost some confidence, and you got to grind to get it back. That would probably be ideal, though, is if it's confidence, hopefully that can be restored. If you've lost a step and it's gone, that's not coming back, right? Like, if your hands are starting to fail you a little bit, that doesn't generally return in your 30s. So, we'll see.
I still believe I'm biased. We had him in Calgary. I know him very well. I still believe it's there. I really do. It hasn't been. You struggled. That defensive core, if there's a trade coming up or something, it might recalibrate everybody as far as reslotting everybody. We see it all the time. If guys are punching above their weight or being asked to do too much, eventually it erodes at them. So I think if Tree ends up making a trade and bringing in somebody on that right side, now all of a sudden you mix and match a little bit, and maybe he gets slotted in a different position where he's a little bit more comfortable. But I still believe in him, but it hasn't been good. I'll be honest. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
No, exactly.
We're
watching it.
We're not just pointing him out for giggles. Like, we said it last week. We deal with what's in front of us, and I'll tell you what. Like, you can talk about the D-court. Matthews was unbelievable, but there's a bunch of guys that can start putting one behind the goal line if they'd like to. Guys like Tavares, Bertuzzi, Nylander's gone a little bit dry. Like, you get that scoring and you can continue to tighten up in the back end. Like, you can get out of this, but don't be shy, some guys, to start sneaking some in.
Yeah, and that was what we saw again in the third last night. And Keefe could laugh at it because they held on and won. And, he did say, kind of tongue-in-cheek, we didn't score again. Why would we? Because that would be easy. But Marner had a breakaway. Domi had a breakaway. Brody had a backdoor, beautiful pass by Nylander. Matthews backdoor, but weird angle from Nylander as well, where I think he put the second one off the post.
Yeah,
but
Vladar made some good saves.
Vladar made some good stops, really but, that's it. Like Marner's in all alone. You score there, or Domi all alone. You score on those, you breathe. And they haven't been able to do that, but they found a way to close it last night. And listen, it's not going to get any easier. They're in Vancouver tomorrow night. You got Vancouver tomorrow, Seattle on Sunday. At some point, I believe Samsonov's got to play. It's pretty wild that they have had one goalie here for about a month and a half. One goalie.
And he's done a great job.
He's done a great job. He's done everything you could ask out of Martin Jones. He's done for you. And
schedule is favored, Hazy. If they had back to back, we'll see what Samsonov had, man.
I have to believe he plays in Seattle. I would think on Sunday you got to play him. You played him last week or earlier this week. You pumped his tires, said it was great. Last week I guess it was, or on the weekend against Detroit. So at some point that's going to happen again. But the fact that he came up, played one game, and then now has disappeared again, it speaks to them still being concerned about how he's going to play. But at some point it's going to have to give. Samsonov's going to have to play. Kevin Weeks in about 10 minutes. There is some news out of Vancouver. Jim Rutherford is sticking around. He got a multi-year extension, which seemed like a layup. I mean, when you consider what that guy's done in his career, he's the man at the top in Vancouver, but obviously had a great run in Hartford, Carolina, then went to Pittsburgh, had a great run there, went to Vancouver, turned
it around.
That's just complete. Yeah. He's a magic man, really. Whatever he's doing out there, it has worked beautifully. Putting the right people in place, whether it's in management, coaching staff, bringing in the players you're supposed to bring in, letting the players go that maybe you feel you have to let go.
And one great comment, Hazy, said, we had some good players here, but we didn't have a great team. Mm-hmm. What a great comment, Jimmy.
Yeah. That's stuck out to me as well. I heard the same thing.
You hear that. Remember, I love how candid he was. Remember, we had him on the show. He's like, we're going to have to get rid of a goalie. We're like, all right. At that time, it was Murray and Jari. He's like, we're going to have to move one of those guys. We're like, okay, we're not in the meeting room here. He's telling us in the. I've always enjoyed him and his candor, pretty straight shooter. I think,
guys, but nothing will beat our guy Jimmy Benning in Buffalo.
Well, no.
His candor in Buffalo.
In terms of tampering, nothing will ever be topped. They're still paying the price. I think that fine.
I think he said we're going to be sniffing around Steven Stamkos and PK Subban if we can.
Yeah, both under contract.
Literally. Yes, literally.
Both under contract.
I remember Hayes pulling me aside in the Buffalo lobby there, and you're like, did you just hear what Jimmy Benning said over there?
Yeah.
Because the Vancouver table was right next to ours.
They couldn't believe it either. They knew it was. That's one of those moments where you just know it's going to go viral. The rest of the hockey world's going to pick that up. If a GM says something like that on the record, that is blatantly against the rules.
It was awesome.
It was great. But, Kevin Weeks coming up in about 5 minutes. We'll get his take on what's going on out in Vancouver, his take on the Leafs. There's a lot of things going on. John Tortorella speaking recently about the game plan for Philly. They keep winning. They won again last night. Yeah. They do not stop. Philly has been an unbelievable story.
Dude, that Owen Tippett, man. I'm telling you, I watched a period, just a random period last week, and I'm like, that guy's starting to turn a corner. He had that goal last night. Think about that transaction, dumping off Giroux to Florida and picking up Owen Tippett.
Yeah.
And he hits. If he keeps going, he looks like a beast, man. That guy could be scary.
Yeah, he is a good player. Weeksy coming up. Mike Johnson coming up. Johnny obviously had the call last night. We'll get his take on what he saw ice level, including what he was saying about Sheldon Keefe and some of the interaction with the players on the bench. The Raptors coming off a loss, but Pascal Siakam is written something in the Players Tribune. We'll get into that a little bit later this afternoon as well. Dear Hazy be in a couple of hours. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Our buddy Kevin Weeks will join us here in a moment. And it's a big weekend. You got 2 Leaf games this weekend. The Raptors are down in New York playing the Knicks, so they'll see OG Anunoby, RJ Barrett, and Emmanuel quickly making their return. And we got football all weekend. A 2-pack on Saturday, a 2-pack on Sunday. I did hear something concerning. Al's brother was filling in for Cause on
I
Gameplay.
heard the same. The Bills comment.
All of a sudden, he's hedging and claiming that the Bills are the right play. And
Really?
He did preface the comment by saying, I would look into the injury report.
Right, understandably. But it sounded kind of like a hedge, like he can claim to the audience that he got it right regardless of the outcome. But anyway, I saw Dan Campbell was speaking with Albert Breer. And I guess his attitude is, if you were not a fan or a supporter before, it's too late. Don't get on the bandwagon now. We don't want you. And that is a rare approach.
Dude, it's such a dumb comment. It's
I
like
know.
You're dying. You guys have been suffering for so long, and now you're going to block people from coming in.
I know. I mean, obviously, he doesn't have the power to say you're not allowed into Ford Field or whatever. But generally, coaches are like, "Yeah, jump on, whatever. We get it. We understand. It's been a tough ride, but we want everyone we can get in Detroit and throughout Michigan and the Midwest. Anyone that wants to support us." You give Dan Campbell one playoff win, he's like, "Screw it. If you're not 100% supporting me in the past, I don't want you.
Insane.
We don't want you."
It is.
Seems like a little bit of that one might come back to bite him, But Lions Bucks this weekend, 4 great football games, hockey games, NBA games, golf. Brooke Henderson's off to a great start. We got a lot cooking this weekend, and to look back on the Leaf win last night, many other stories throughout the NHL. Here's our buddy Kevin Weeks from ESPN, TSN. How you doing, Weeksy?
I'm good. How's everybody doing? What's the word, boys?
Well, feeling better today up here. I can tell you that. The Leafs got themselves a win last night, as you know, and it was getting a little bit spicy up here. A lot of people were wondering what's going on with this team, and they played 43 games now. They're in a playoff spot, but everyone's got a different viewpoint on the Leafs. Where do you stand on them halfway through the year?
Well, there's the Auston Matthews show last night out in Calgary at the Dome. That's for sure. He was great as always, and he was able to rescue that game for them. Mm-hmm. We know that they can score goals. They're dynamic. Give Marty Jones credit. He's the insurance policy that they bought, and that State Farm, Marty Jones insurance policy has been very good for them. So he's helped save their season. You guys know I was bullish on Joseph Woll, who's played really well until the injury. All things being equal, it comes down to the same thing. I was just speaking to my former coach and our former coach, Paul Maurice, earlier this afternoon, and he was just relishing how committed the Florida Panthers group is. And he said, it reminds him of our group that we had in 2002 in Carolina that went to the Cup final. He said, there's so many guys that are selfless in that group. I'm not saying the Leaf guys are selfish, but what I am saying is for them to go deeper into the postseason, it's going to have to be about that commitment to sometimes doing things that you don't want to do, which could be blocking a shot, which could be eating a cross-check, some of the unsavory things, back-checking a little harder. So if they make that commitment and really combine that with their offense, I think they're going to be better suited for the postseason. If they don't, then I think the result can be the same that we've seen, for the last several years.
But Kev, if you've seen it the same kind of thing for 6 or 7 years, like, you would think after 3 or 4 they'd kind of learn. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
It's one of those things. I wanted to ask you about the goaltending. When Woll does come back from injury, how do you think that situation is handled? Because 10 days ago, I was thinking to myself, Woll's going to have to play unbelievable for 2 weeks if he's going to steal the net off of Martin Jones. And I don't really think that right now. How do you see the scenario playing out when Woll gets healthy?
I think you just got to run. You got to keep running Marty, get Woll his games when he can, depending on how he feels, that you come back from injury. Give him as much as he can handle, as much as his body can handle. But you got to keep Marty Jones going. To me, it becomes a 2-horse. Those are your top 2 goalies right now. Samsonov has had some ups and downs, and it's not unique to him. All of us as goalies have gone through it. But he's had some ups and downs right now, and I just don't think the Leafs can afford to have him play through those ups and downs right now as such when Woll is healthy. So I think the net belongs to Marty Jones and Woll when Woll comes back from his injury.
Weeksy, where are you at with that tandem? Like, is that a trusted tandem for you? Do you believe that, with Martin Jones playing so well, Woll being an up-and-comer, do you think that if they're healthy, knock on wood for both of them, that Tree would be comfortable with that situation, or do you think that maybe he's still trying to make a move to add to the depth of that group?
That's exactly it, Noodles. I think a lot of it is predicated on the health. How healthy is Marty Jones? What is the timeline for his health? What is that in relation to the trade market? You know, at the end of the day, here's the thing. And I do think that is a good tandem when both guys are healthy, both Marty Jones and Joseph Woll, because he has a lot of upside. I said that since World Juniors when he was playing in Boston College. But I would say this, at the end of the day, let's talk in football terms and let's speak for everybody back home, because we have CFL fans and, of course, you have NFL fans, but they understand enough about football. If I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, if I'm looking down the turnpike here in Jersey at the Philly Eagles, if you're looking in Buffalo, just around Lake Ontario, if they don't have Jake Allen, if you don't have Patrick Mahomes, if you don't have Jalen Hurts, it's a different game. It makes for a different game. And you probably ask me where I'm going with this. Well, it's kind of become a different game for the Leafs because, Freddie obviously played well. Freddie was really good, but he got banged up with injuries, but Freddie played well. But you don't have a true one horse right now, and it kind of changes the dynamic. So what the best case scenario would be to have Marty Jones and Joseph Woll in the net right now, once Woll returns from injury. But they still don't have a one.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think everyone would, for sure. With Kevin Weeks, Philadelphia is probably one of the coolest stories in the league this year. It's just been amazing what they've managed to do. They won again last night. That's 5 in a row. And I want to play this clip. John Tortorella was speaking. I think he was doing a scrum in his office recently. Here's what he had to say about their plans leading up to the trade deadline.
There's going to be some people probably upset come trading deadline, too, when we have to make some moves here because of where we're at in the process. We're talking about people right now, as far as where do they fit, age-wise, contract and all that. And in that meeting, what I'll say, I said, we just can't fall in love. You can't, because if you do, it's going to set you back.
That music is absurd.
I was just going to say, are we on a game show? What the hell was that?
That music was so awkward. I don't know why that was included there, but it was. So, let me ask you this, Kevin. If you're a Flyers fan, you are loving life right now. It's been ugly there for a while. Like, it has been a tough scene, and they're finally rocking. They're 2 points behind the Rangers for top spot, and yet John Tortorella, I think, is preparing them for trades, like players.
What's he saying? Not fall in love with the team right now,
I think the veterans. I think the guys who their deals are expiring. Like our plan is still
Walker.
Yeah, 2-3 years down the road. That was my interpretation. What do you make of it, Kevin?
Well, having played for Torts and worked with him twice, and I remember when he first got the job, and I told him, you better tell me so I can break this. Don't be a clown. Anyway, long story short, Torts and the staff have done a great job in Philly. Philly's ahead of schedule now. We all know that. I think the fact that they're this far ahead of schedule, guys, it's changed the calculus. Let's look across Lake Ontario at Buffalo, right? We know they have good young pieces. We know they have whatever, but this is going to be 13 years likely of not making the playoffs. So again, another perpetual rebuild. Same thing in Anaheim, same thing in some other places. If you now are the Philadelphia Flyers, now they're ahead of schedule. Carter Hart is a really good young goalie. Erson has played very well with him. Their guys box out. They block shots. They're playing hard. They're competing. Travis Konechny has been excellent for them. And now for the Flyers, you're like, ooh, now we just traded for Jamie Drysdale with that big deal for the Cutter Gauthier deal. We like our team. But in trading for Jamie Drysdale, I think that gives them flexibility on Sean Walker. Now, I spoke to his agent not that long ago, Stewie, and Sean Walker loves Philly. He loves playing there. He loves the staff. Him and his wife, they love the city. But he's a pending UFA. And him and Sealer have been an excellent pair for them on the back end. So do they move either one of those two guys, if not both? Maybe. But I think that's kind of what Torts was alluding to, where they have some decisions to make on some of those pending UFAs or some of those older players that are getting interest on the marketplace. And this is going to be the summer of unrestricted defensemen. We all know that this summer. And I'll tell you what, Sean Walker has really flourished since going to Philly. I'm not saying it's limited to him, But he's one of those type of players that Torts was alluding to for sure.
Yeah, that'll take a lot of courage, and I will give them so much credit if Keith Jones and Danny Briere and Tortorella all collectively say, we understand what we're doing, but we have bigger goals in mind. Like, because I think as great as Philly's been, they're not going to win a Stanley Cup. Like, this is not a team that's going to win a Stanley Cup this year, so I think people concede that, and they understand it. But that takes courage. That takes courage, man, and I guess we'll see where they're at when the time is right. And we were mentioning that the Leafs are in Vancouver tomorrow, and Jim Rutherford just got himself a new extension in Vancouver. He's the man at the top, and you know him well, obviously, from your Carolina days. And it's kind of amazing what he said today. Like when he got there, they had good players, but now they have a good team. And I wonder, what you make of Vancouver and the job Rutherford's done, and how likely it is they can compete for a Stanley Cup this year.
I think everybody had their kind of imprint on their team because there hasn't been a lot of continuity. So Travis Green had his imprint. Then from then, Bruce Boudreau went and had his imprint, although it was a little shorter tenure. And then now Talk, the fellow Scarbarian, is doing a great job. Talk's done, he's taking them to the next level. Guys, remember the start of the year? You guys remember training camp when when Talk said, I don't even know who our defensive pairs are going to be. Do you remember that?
No.
Talk, it came out and he said, I don't even know if we're going to have pairs. I don't know what, literally. And to their credit, they've gone out. Quinn Hughes is one of the best players in the world. He is, like Cale Makar, one of the best offensive players on the ice, but he happens to play defense. And he's played well defensively, too, with Philip Hronek. Thatcher Demko's healthy, and he's right there 1 and 2 with Connor Hellebuyck for the Vezina. And then, of course, up front, Brock Besser, you could tell he's in a better mental space after, the stuff with his dad, with his health and his passing. Elias Pettersson is a superstar, stud. And JT Miller's become a stud since going to Vancouver, too. I can go around and round. Now they're playing harder, but now on the back end, Tyler Myers looks rejuvenated. Zadorov looks excellent there in that third pair, second pair. And I'm going to tell you one thing for Vancouver that doesn't get enough love is that third line with Teddy Bluger, Connor Garland, and Dakota Joshua. Those guys have been excellent for Rick Tocchet. So they now are a real squad. Like Jimmy's right. They are a squad now. They've become a squad this year. I like what I see from them. And I'll end it on this quickly. And Noodles, I'm sure, because you're a part of coaching staff too, I can't undersell the value of obviously the goalie coach. We all know, but having Sergei Gonchar and Adam Foote as well with Talk on the bench, I think goes a long way for those young players.
Well, yeah, I mean, Adam Foote there, like you said, Paul Coffey in Edmonton, Daniel Alfredson in Ottawa. It's like these old legends are jumping behind a bench and having an impact. It seems that way anyway. Well, we'll leave it there, Weeksy. Always appreciate you doing this. We'll do it again down the road.
Anytime,
Thank you.
Fellas. Thanks for having me on, boys. Keep up the great work.
Kevin Weeksy, ESPN, TSN. Yeah, Vancouver, they won again last night. Edmonton won their 12th in a row.
I was going to bring that up to you guys, but, we were focused on the Leafs, rightfully so, because Matthews put a show on. Again, McDavid, but it's. Did you see? I don't know if you saw the highlights or if you were watching the game live. Like that, Yanni Gourde went high on Ekholm, got a major. Like it was a hard hit. It was he left his feet, all of that, or left the ice. First guy in, McDavid attacked him. Like it's, and again, you don't need to be a tough guy, but Brian, you'd pointed it out. Like you went after like that game-winning goal against the Leafs. It's McDavid and Riley, and McDavid swiping at him. Like they're physically battling, and he's not backing down. Like it's almost like this guy is I don't think he cares about points. I know he's going to get a ton because he's just an amazing player. But it's almost like they've found this formula there where it's like, hey, we're sticking together because they were all in, and that was a hard-fought battle. They played Seattle came to play last night, and at the end it got greasy.
Maybe Noodles, he just realized if I get the helper on the game-winning goal, and as opposed to having 3 goals and an assist and losing 7-4. It's a difference. You know what I mean?
I've noticed that their last 2 games, it's really been evident. Like they play as a team. Obviously, they're limiting chances. The goaltending's been good. Draisaitl stepped up. Like they've had different guys, but it was just particularly watching 97. Like, he went after that Yanni all night. He was battling Gord, and Gord did a good job. Like, he was like Esa Tikkanen back in the day where he was shadowing players, and that's what Gord was doing to McDavid last night, and they were going at it. But he didn't back down. We're seeing the replay there. First guy in, there's McDavid, goes right at him. And, all hell breaking loose. And it's just, you're not sitting there looking, going, where's Kane? Where's Desharnais? Where's, like, I'm all in. It's just a small thing that I noticed.
No,
I don't know.
I don't think it's small at all. I think it's massive. I think if you want the whole team to feel like that and follow in the footsteps, the top guy's got to be the one that's willing to do it too. Right? It's like if you watch, this is a ridiculous analogy, but if you watch old school shows, old school movies where it's like the king's got to be at the front of the line. He's got to be with the army charging.
Right.
If he's in the castle, you're going to have the soldiers saying, what am I doing fighting for this guy? Right? Like the best leaders are the ones that are on the front line. And
love it.
McDavid is doing it. And you know where I'm sure he knew that was coming anyway, but he trains. I think Gary Roberts is at the forefront of this, him and Steven Stamkos, McDavid, Stamkos. How often has Stamkos said over the last few years, I had to realize I got to do it too. Like, I got to fight. I got to get in there and push and hit and scrum and snap, because if I want my fourth line guy to do it, I got to do it. And I think you see that out of McDavid. And, I know where we're going to transition here. And I keep beating this drum. That guy on this team is either Matthews or literally the captain is John Tavares. And it can't be looking at because I don't want to just keep hammering on the Leafs here, but I think if that play happens to the Leafs, those best players look at the ref and say, well, that's 5, put me on the power play. Instead of, screw it, I'm going in there and I'm going to take issue with that. And you guys know, like, the best players in the world, like McDavid, like Matthews, as long as you don't do something cheap, no one's going to drop the gloves and start fighting you or something. Like, if you go in and hit and scrum and push and no one expects you to fight, the refs are not, they're going to protect you because of who you are.
Right.
You can get in there, jab, punch, make a statement, and move on with your game without having any concern that, Tom Wilson's coming over the boards to challenge you. And, like, that's never going to happen.
Game's changed. You're right.
You don't have to worry about that.
It seems during this stretch, and then they've won 20 games, 20-3 in their last 23. Like, they've found something there where it galvanized them. Believe me, they were at the bottom of the league or damn close to it with San Jose.
Yeah.
And people were against them. And they found this formula. It's like, we need to defend better. We need to be, as a team, sticking together, all of that. And it's in this stretch, you're seeing it. And I've just seen something different outside of it. And that's where, maybe it isn't, hey, I care what you're saying. Oh, let's try and win 7-4 and I need my 4 points. It's like, you know what? We'll win 4-2. If I get an assist, if I get a goal, or if it happens to be me getting the 4 points, so be it. But it seems like they've got a little different approach.
Yeah, well,
Jonathan Toews hockey.
Too.
Jonathan Toews hockey. I'll do whatever I got to do to help the team get a win. It's 2 assists if it's a hat trick, if I got to kill a penalty, if I got to block a shot. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not that long ago that team won 3 cups, and that guy was so awesome in the playoffs. Everyone talks about Showtime, and he was awesome too, and Patrick Sharp and the rest of it. But Jonathan Toews, man, he was the real deal.
Yeah.
Real deal.
Yeah, and he was the one wearing the C on his jersey too.
Yes.
Mike Johnson in about 15 minutes. Dear Hazy B in about an hour 45, and Mark Schlereth will help us tee up the divisional weekend in the NFL. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Mike Johnson in 15 minutes. A lot of people already starting to tweet in their submissions for O's Caddie this spring and summer. Yeah, I guess Doogie must have sent it out, or people are just being proactive and they want to get in front of the line. And
Doogie, what's it looking like? Is it like kind of older guys, or does it look like people are serious about it, or what?
It looks like people are pretty serious.
All right, thank you, Doogie.
Thank you, Doogie. Good one.
Good contribution. I love it. You're not the best color guy in the game for nothing, Doogie.
Give me the Monty drop on that one.
Doogie's on top.
He's not the best color man in the league for nothing, folks.
That's our Doogie. Monty Doogie. Yeah, it seems like people are very excited with the idea of possibly getting in there. So Noodles
Dude,
and
if you're
I
bored,
will
seriously,
vet it.
if you're bored, well, what else? Like we can become buddies, like just hang for 3 hours twice a week.
I don't know. I'm telling you that.
No, I know what your complaint is going to be, Noodles. You think it's
What?
going to be some creepazoid that's going to bother me, and it's going to turn ugly by the third hole.
Well,
and then
the guy will do something. and you'll be like, you're going to go, all right.
Exactly. There's a pond on 2 hole.
And you will take the cart away and make him walk back to the clubhouse
Guys,
or something
come
like
on.
that.
Yeah.
You got to vet this thing. We'll have him on the show. We'll do an interview of some sort. We gotta do it properly.
All right, we'll figure that out. Yeah, we can get to the bottom of this. I will say it feels like we are the furthest you can get from golf. Like middle of January, you're about 2.5 months away from the last time you played.
But guys are thinking about it. Guys are thinking about what kind of exercise or how could I get out and have something to do in the spring.
Yeah, no, it's exactly like outdoor golf. That's why sim golf is incredibly popular. A lot of people are hitting the bays and doing what they do best. And we're getting closer. We're getting there. It's moving.
We're
going to
hit a
direction.
sim with the QI10 pretty soon. I'd like to think.
Yes, I'm hoping that is the case. It's getting incredible feedback. I think again, Brooke Henderson's got it in play, and she's playing great right now.
You need to revamp the whole driving routine this summer. You got to get back on track.
I know.
Birdies galore. Birdies galore.
It's a high priority. The highest priority.
And rolling the rock.
Well, yeah, that ship may have sailed. I'll do my best. I'll see what I can do on that front. But all right, Mike Johnson coming up in the next hour, and the Raptors coming off a loss last night in New York tomorrow. The Leafs with a double shot this weekend. Big NFL weekend, too. It's going to be awesome. Hour 2 up next. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.